Hi everyone, welcome back to the next video in the selector series with UiPath. In this series of the selectors in UiPath, we are talking about what all are the activities and what all the things that are related to selector. We started with all this playlist that what are UiPath selectors. We took a look at the UI frameworks, property explorer, get web attribute, set web attribute, full versus partial selector, index in selectors, anchor base, and now in the recent one we have seen how we can use a relative selectors. In continuation to this series, today we are going to add one more video to the playlist. In this video, we are going to discuss that how exactly can I select the value successively from a dropdown. What do I mean by that? Let me show a demonstration. I have a website open in front of me. This is called the random name generator website. So assuming that I have to select each and every country one by one and I have to do some operation here. So as of now, let's assume that the task is just to print what we have selected, and we are not sure how many items can be here, right? Sometime it may be 3, sometime it might be 100. So how can we design? Let me quickly go to the UiPath Studio and run this. I have already created, so this is what we are going to explain in this video. I'll go here and run the file. The bot has started, and if you notice that the bot is selecting each and every country one by one from the country drop down. So this is what we are going to see in today's demonstration, that how exactly can we code like a scenario. And to code this, we will use an activity which is called the find children activity, and several other selectors activities like get attribute and all those things. So this is what we are going to explain in this video. Okay, so if we'll just go to the output, you can see that the bot has selected and some action has been performed. So in case you find this interesting, stay tuned and watch this video till the end, and you will be able to understand all of this coding. To start with the video, I have a website open in front of me. The name of the website is called the fake name generator. This is basically an website which is available on the web and where you can generate the random numbers. So today, as a use case, what we are doing, assuming that this is a website which I have to automate, and if you notice that I have a country drop down here. So if I just select on the country drop down, I can see almost all the countries available here. Now, assuming that I have to write an automation where I have to select a particular country. For example, I have to select Italy from the drop down. So how do I do that? I can easily go to my UiPath Studio. I can have an activity called select item and we can automate that. Okay, we'll try to first select Italy. Okay, so I'll go to my UiPath Studio. Let me just go ahead and take an activity called attach browser. So why I am taking attached browser? I am assuming that this website is already open. In case the website is not open, we can always use an activity called the open browser. So the first task was to just select Italy from the drop down, right? So I just went and I added at attach browser activity, pointed to that. Now to select an item from the drop down, UiPath has an activity which is called the select item. I will simply drag and drop it inside the attach browser container because this is where I have to do all the operations. Now select item will ask me indicate the element where I have to select. Okay, I'll click on indicate on element and I just select this drop down. Okay, now it will ask me which value I have to select. So assuming that now Italy is already selected, let me just see what all values are available. So I can see France is also available, right? So let me simply change here it to France. Okay, I'll remove Italy and I'll say France here, and then I will have simply a write line activity. That way in the UiPath logs it will print that whether the operation was successful or not. I can validate with the help of logs also, right? And I will simply type here France selected. Okay, let us try to save everything and I'll simply go here and run the file. Now the automation will start in a moment. We will see the icon at the bottom. Okay, so the robot has fired up, and if you notice, the France was selected in the drop down. Now this was a straightforward task. Now assuming that I am writing automation where I have to select each and every value from the drop down. So I am not sure which all country name we have, right? So assuming that the automation requirement is, first I have to select Australia, then I have to select Austria, then I have to select Brazil, then I have to select Canada, then I have to select Denmark, then I have to select Italy, Ireland, like that. So I have to select each and every option which is available in the drop down. How do I do that? So one option is like this, I use the select item each and every time, but for that I would require the country name, right? So is there a way in UiPath that if I'm able to get all these data, and how do I use all of these data one by one in a selector like this? So if you notice here, we have hard coded the value France. So this is what we are going to see today. For this, we are going to use an activity which is called the file find children. So in the previous videos of the series, we have seen a lot of on the selector playlist. There is a dedicated selector playlist which is available on the channel. I'll provide the link in the description and you can refer that. So today we are going to see one more activity, that how do we manage difficult situation like this. Okay, so for a moment I'll just park this activity, I'll just disable this, and I will take an activity called find children. Okay, so I'll simply drag and drop the activity here. Now what is this activity doing? To know more about this activity, we can always go to docs.uipath.com and just I will type find children and UiPath, hit enter. Okay, so find children activity retrieves the collection of the children UiElement according to the specified scope and the filter criteria. So whatever scope we are deciding, it will return all the values in that option. So we have different options like find children, find descendants, find process, find thread. To continue using the find children activity, the first thing is we have to indicate it to the element that which item we have to select. So as of now we have to select all these items, right? So how do I do? Simply go here, click on indicate on element, and I'll point it to the drop down. That is it. Now find children, if you will just notice in the official documentation, the return type is a children in a format of enumerable variable. Now how do I create an output variable for this one? You don't have to remember each and every thing. You can simply go here, hit Control plus K, and I will create a variable called, let's say, children's. Okay, now the beauty of UiPath Studio is it will automatically create a variable with the desired type. Okay, so I have created. Now if I simply go to the variables, you would see children's variables is created and the correct variable type is selected, that is enumerable with a type of UiElement. Okay, so if I go to the properties, I will just select the first one, that is the find children, the default activity. Now let me simply put a debugger here and let us analyze what exactly is coming when we run this program, and let us analyze that what data exactly we are getting in the output variable. For that I have put a debugger here. Let me simply go here and click on the debug file. Now expectation is the bot will run and it will fetch all the values, and now we want to validate what values I am getting in the variable. Okay, so if you notice my UI, the variable which I have created, that was the children variable, is now initialized. That was enumerable of UiElement. I have got 31 items. So how would I actually able to extract the data, right? So I'll simply click on this pencil icon. I see some of the detail. Let me copy it to clipboard. I will go here, click on the new file, hit Ctrl plus V, and for a better reading, let me just select it to XML maybe. Okay, so I can see there are 31 UI elements, and this is the first UI element. Okay, so this here is the second UI element, and this here is the third UI element. Okay, so we are interested in only one UI element, and that would serve our purpose. Okay, so this is the first UI element. So if I just go back to the website, which is this one, if you notice that the first element was Australia and the next was Austria. So let us see where exactly we are getting this value. So if you notice in the first UI element, we are getting the value in the AA name, that is Australia, and in the second one it is getting as Austria. If I simply click on the AA name, you notice that AA name is having all the values which are available in the web page. Okay, so that means that if I have to get the data out of this each and every element, I have to use this attribute, which is called the AA name attribute. Okay, now how do I get this value out of this A attribute? That is a question for me. So now this is UI element, so this is our variable, right? And this variable is having 31 items. So what we will do is, in the logic we will loop this 31 items. Okay, so these 31 items will have all of these variable one by one. The first time it will have this guy, second time it will have this guy, and then out of all these variable we will try to extract the AA name, and then once we have all this data we will pass this and we'll take it forward. So let us try to do that. Now how do we loop a such kind of data? To loop such kind of data we use an activity which is called the for each activity. I'll stop the bot. Okay, so I hope you are getting till here that what we are trying to do. So I'll just repeat, we are trying to select each and every option from this drop down, and we don't know that what all options we can have. Okay, so for that we have used an activity called find children. We have stored the output in a variable called children's. We hit control plus K, created this variable, and we have seen that we are getting this kind of value. Okay, now to iterate, what we do, we use an activity which is called the for each activity. Sorry, my bad. I'll just go to the activity pan and I will use an activity called the for each activity. So I will use this guy here, for each activity. Now when you type for each activity, see there are two for each. One is for the control and one is for the data table. So the item which we are iterating is not a data table. That is why we have to control this one and not this one. So we'll select this for each, right? Now for each item where, so we have to iterate something. So what is that something? That is this variable which is called children's. Okay, so I'll go here and I type children's, right? Now if we just go to the properties for each, you notice that it will ask that what is the type of argument you are iterating in the for each. So had it been a list of string, I would have selected the string, but I know that I am iterating a UI element, a list of enumerable and UI element. So what I have to do is you simply go to the properties, from the drop down click on browse for type and simply type here UI element. Okay, because we have to iterate all the UI element, and I will select the one UiPath.co.UI element, this guy. Okay, now what will happen is in this each item, so I'll just name it to UI element, ELEMENT. So now what would happen in this variable, now everything will be coming one by one, and what is that one by one? This value. Okay, now how do I get that value? So for getting a value out of any element, we have an activity which is called the get attribute. Okay, so in the previous videos of this series we have explained all of this activity in detail. So as of now I'll just directly use get attribute. You can just watch the previous videos that how actually this activity performs, and you will get a detailed explanation. As of now you can just think it as that whenever I have to get a certain attribute value from a UI element, I use this activity. Okay, so why we are using this activity? Because we have to get this AA name. Okay, so let me just drag and drop this activity here, get attribute. Now get attribute expects me to indicate something on the browser, but I don't want to indicate. So if I simply go to the properties, you would notice that in the target you have an option to provide the selector or provide an element. So if you just hover over the element, it says it's a kind of UI element. And if you remember, in the for each loop we have told UiPath that I am iterating a UI element. That means in the get attribute, in the target, instead of passing the selector, now I will pass this value here, and which is this value, UI element, and this is coming from here. So whatever name you provide here, we just have to provide this guy here. Okay, now get attribute will ask me, okay Mukesh, you have given me the element. So what happens when this part run? The get attribute will get all of these items one by one, and which value I have to take? I am interested in the AA name. So it's as simple as that. Most of you would have guessed it correctly, that in the attribute now I would have to select the, I'll simply select Okay, this drop down. Okay, let me just go here, element, and here I simply type AA and AME. In case you are getting this drop down, we can select this from the drop down as well, AA state, and let me just select again the AA name, and if you are not getting, you can type it here also, right? So I have saved it. Now get attribute will give me all of this AA name in as an output, so I would have to store it somewhere, right? So let me go to properties, and again I quickly create a variable called str underscore country. Okay, now this will automatically create a variable for me. The concepts is applicable everywhere because it's in string, so str underscore country, and it has already taken the string variable. Now, so now what is happening? So we are selecting the value from the drop down, reading the entire children. From the children we are telling UiPath to give us the AA name, and the AA name we are storing it in the str underscore country. Now if you remember, our objective was to select this value from the drop down, right? So what I will do is, so I will just enable this guy, that was nothing but the select item. I'll put it inside here. So now what we are telling UiPath, that now you have to select an item. Okay, and the item would be nothing but the value that we get from the get attribute, and where we are storing it in the variable called str country. So I'll type here str country. Okay, and simply we'll drag this here, and to know that what exactly the bot has done, we will simply type the variable that is str country, and I'll append with that it's selected, so that way at the end I can validate the logs. Okay, I'll remove the debugger. Now let us verify what exactly we have done, right? So first of all, we have used an attach browser activity, attaching it to the browser using an activity of find children. So find children will give me this all this data, enumerable list of UI element. Then I navigated to each and every UI element, and I found that the option which I am interested is available in the field called AA name. Okay, so if you'll see AA name here, AA name is having Germany, AA name is having Portugal, and this is what I was interested in, right? So the next was I have to select this item from the drop down. So now, as we know, to select the item we use an activity called select item. First time we hard coded it with a value France, but now I have each and every value in this guy, AA name, storing it in a variable called str country, and in the select item passing the value. Now we are not hard coding it, and at the end simply writing a write line statement. Now this way, in future, if this country list is increased or decreased, we don't have to change our automation. Let us try to save everything and run the file. So now what is the expectation? The bot should come here, and if you notice, bot is selecting each and every value one by one which are available in the drop down. We can validate the same by using the log activity which we have written. Okay, so let us just wait for the bot to complete the execution. Portugal, South Africa, Spain, it is selecting all the values one by one, right? So, and we don't have to hard code the values everywhere. Okay, so the bot has completed. I can go to the output. Let me just pull it like this, and if you notice that all the countries which were available, right from the Australia to the last country, it has selected each and everything, right? So that is how we use the find children activity. Now I hope you understand what exactly is the find children doing. It is retrieving all the collection of UI elements that are available for that particular element, right? So if you go to the documentation for find children, now you will notice that this is a documentation which is provided by UiPath. Pretty good documentation, that it retrieves a collection of UI elements according to the specified scope and the filter criteria. So these are the scope: find children, find descendants, top level, process, and the thread. This includes the definition that what exactly it is searching. There is also an option to use the filter option, so you can use the filter option and you can select exactly that what you want to select. You can always go ahead and try with this option, that what exactly are you getting. This other are the basic one, that the private selector, timeout ms, and all these things are the basic selector properties. We have a video on this channel, we are explaining all of this activity and how do they function. I'll put the links and you can refer that. And the last one, it says that if you put the thing in a try catch block and you put continue on error, the error won't get caught. Okay, so that was all for this video. I hope you understand the concept of find children activity and how can we select the values successively from a drop down. Thank you for watching. In case you like the video, please do subscribe to the channel, and happy automation.